presidential elections are over. According to the nearly complete results, Joe Biden 51% of the popular vote, Donald Trump about 47.2%. Joe Biden is now, according to the latest count, over 6 million votes, popular votes ahead of Donald Trump. So Joe Biden has over 79 million to try to petition a deal ratification of results, but most likely that effort will fail, just like all the other efforts to overturn the election results have done. And why is this relevant? Because at stake ultimately is the belief in the freeness and fairness of the US presidential elections. If he managed by a long shot to overturn these elections, chances are that there would be a great deal of public outrage, even violent attacks on order throughout the United States, but also in much of the rest of the world. He would say, I reluctantly accept the verdict of the American people, and I wish my successor well, and I allow my administration to forbid them from cooperating. That would be the minimum decency that he could show. Because if he keeps clinging like that, ultimately he might actually end up in jail for refusing to vacate the White House on time. Of course, cooler heads, over 260,000 Americans have already died in the United States. This doesn't include the expatriate Americans who have died from this pandemic. Over 260,000 affected. Millions are going hungry because of unemployment and poverty, and because of the election results, despite the fact that he has already demonstrably lost, both in the popular votes and in the electoral votes. He's golfing, he's venting his anger, he's firing once in a while those people who dare to disagree with him. And unfortunately, too many of his employees, like the White House, is outrageously lied this weekend that supposedly Donald Trump was not given an orderly transition between November 2016 and January 2017. As I will prove in this video, citing an article or summarizing an article written by a fact-checking journalist of the USA Today newspaper, Trump. She knows how full of anger and rage he is, and how volatile he is as well. So that's with Donald Trump. So what are the facts in this? Was Donald Trump on Friday, White House's current press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, falsely claimed otherwise? Him and deny his victory. If he substituted the proper name Joe Biden, that would be correct. And Hillary Clinton could easily have filed court cases. She could have demanded recounts and audits, but she didn't. She played the role of the good loser and quickly and politely conceded the election. Outgoing President Barack Obama also admitted that Trump had won and congratulated him on the victory. So did outgoing Vice President at the time, Joe Biden. This despite the fact that Trump actually had only received about 46% of the popular vote, contrary to Hillary Clinton's 48%. Incidentally, he received 306 electors, Hillary Clinton's two, even though several of her electors then cast votes for other people when the Electoral College met in the respective state capitals and in Washington, D.C. in December 2016. So rather than wait for weeks, Hillary Clinton already conceded. She said, and I quote, "We must accept this result and then look to the future. Donald enshrines the peaceful transfer of power, and we don't just leaving to offer his own message of unity to Americans. He vowed that there would be a peaceful transition into the Trump administration." and work as hard as we can to make sure that this is a successful transition for the president-elect, Obama said. We are now all rooting for his success in uniting and leading the country. The peaceful transition of power is one of the hallmarks of our democracy and indeed of any true democracy. And over the next few months, we are going to show that to the world. 2 days after the 2016 US presidential elections, then Vice Since this year's election was called for Biden on November the 7th, so just 4 days after it was officially held, Trump has continuously challenged the result validity, arguing that voter fraud was rampant on election day and the days following, as various states worked to count thousands or actually even millions of mail-in ballots. The president has falsely claimed that he won the election on numerous occasions, even though various experience of covering not just the US presidential elections, but many other countries' elections as well, and is one of the most respected international votes. Trump, on the other hand, got 232 votes. Trump has also made several unsubstantiated claims about voter fraud, and one of the most outrageous claims was made by former New York City Mayor. What did he claim? He claimed that somehow Venezuela was involved, such as saying that supposedly the US soldiers' ballots went missing in Georgia and claiming that the computer system glitched in Michigan. He has filed at least 33 lawsuits in key states. None of them have managed to help him win a single state that was not already originally projected to go to him anyway. And the recent in Georgia, a state that much more likely could have gone to him than Michigan, because his original margin of loss was only about 14,000 votes there, only was able to produce a 2,000 vote reduction in that loss margin, 12,000 votes. So if there had been substantial given that state to Trump, but it didn't, and neither will Michigan, neither will any other state. The game is over, but Trump is playing the role of an extremely sore loser, an extremely proud individual who simply doggedly refuses to admit the facts when they are against him, such as the fact that he lost this of the world's democracies. This wouldn't happen in Canada. This wouldn't happen in Europe, aside from a few post-Soviet Eastern European countries, maybe. And there are a number of African countries, including South Africa, where this would never happen. There are a growing number of a case similar to this. 4.5 years ago, in May 2016, then Congresswoman Leni Robredo narrowly defeated then Senator Bongbong Marcos, one of the late president and dictator Ferdinand Marcos's children in the vice presidential elections, because here in the Philippines, the president and vice president are elected separately. And as a result, given the fluid party system here, this is not a two-party system, but a multi-party competitive coalitions, as was the case, for example, in 2010 and 2016. So even though the election was certified well over 4 years ago, Bongbong Marcos has continued his useless laws. Late Bongbong Marcos in a country that is still called the leader of the free world, meaning the United States, and the Philippines is still called, unfortunately, a third world. Election officials across the United States have denounced, and rightly so, Trump's claims, saying that there is no evidence of voter fraud, at least none that would have overturned the election results in Biden's favor in any state. Trump's refusal to concede has left President-elect Joe Biden without crucial national security information, as administration officials refuse to recognize Biden as president-elect. Some Senate Republicans, though, are calling for Biden to gain access to the reports, and at least one Senate Republican and former presidential candidate, by the way, Mitt Romney, first of Massachusetts, now of Utah, because he served as the governor of Massachusetts earlier this century, he graciously and quickly congratulated Joe Biden. So did former US President George W. Bush, another Republican. So did Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. Despite affirming his continued support for President Trump, he graciously said that Joe Biden has been elected as the next US president. No wonder Trump then called for fellow Republicans to try to defeat Mike DeWine in his bid for re-election in 2022. This is what Trump is like. And eerily, ominously, he predicted in 2016 what would happen. He said, I will accept the election results if I win. So he showed a profound contempt toward one of the basic principles of a true democracy: free and fair elections, and the duty of all the candidates to accept those results, the election results, even if they despite the fact that Trump was given a transition of power 4 years ago, for over 1 year into his single presidential term, as is now almost 100% likely, he continued to mock, and he is now trying to do what he has accused his opponents of: results. I hope and pray that God Almighty will put a stop to this. If nothing else works, even by allowing Donald Trump's health, physical or mental health, to weaken to the extent that he will break down in tears and plead God for forgiveness. That is something he should have done years ago or decades ago already. Sorry to have used so strong language, but I'm disgusted at his dogged refusal to accept the clear election results. And by the way, the victory margin is projected to be the same as it was in 2012, when then incumbent President Barack Obama defeated Mitt Romney. Romney refused to challenge the election results. He quickly and graciously congratulated Obama, even though they had had a bitter election campaign. So did then Massachusetts US Senator John Kerry 16 years ago, when he lost by approximately the same margin to then incumbent US President George W. Bush. So without the access to the confidential national security reports, and crucial ones, the United States might be in a vulnerable position when Biden is inaugurated in January 2021. So I really hope and pray that this kind of farce, electoral farce, will soon end, and the United States will be able to move on into an orderly transition of power.